Hey guys, tonight we settle into the gentle rhythm of dusk as you listen to incense smoke curling in temple halls, wind chimes tinkling like distant laughter, and the last amber rays fading behind misty mountain peaks. You probably won't reach enlightenment tonight, but we can get a little closer. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Feel free to share your location and local time in the comments below to connect with our growing community. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand at the threshold of a bamboo grove as twilight deepens, and you notice the first dancing shadows flicker across smooth stone lanterns. And says, each slender stalk casts a long silhouette that bends and sways with the breeze, moving like silent dancers performing an ancient ritual. You realize that shadows aren't simply empty voids, but living presences, partners to the light, painting the world in subtle nuance. In this moment, you learn your first lesson: presence is revealed as much by absence as by illumination. Without the dark canvas of shadow, light would have no stage to shine upon. Imagine a candle flame in a pitch-black temple chamber, and the flame alone would be bright but unremarkable. It is the surrounding darkness that makes its glow sacred, giving shape and depth to its dance. Here in the grove, each bamboo shaft becomes a brushstroke, each leaf edge a flicker of movement. You sense that shadows, like silent teachers, guide you to notice details you might otherwise overlook. You recall a Zen parable of a master and his student walking at dusk. The student complained, "Master, the shadows scare me. What lurks in the dark?" The master responded by gently pointing to the moon, saying, "The moon needs the night to be seen." In that teaching, you understand that your own hidden parts become gifts when held in the light of awareness. The shadows of fear, doubt, and unfinished stories reveal the contours of your inner landscape, just as moonlight reveals the curve of a mountain ridge. As you step forward, the path beneath you is lined with moss and stone, and your footfall becomes a slow drumbeat in the quiet grove. You notice a leaf drifting across the paving, its form illuminated by a stray lantern glow, casting intricate patterns on the ground. You joke softly to yourself. Who knew leaves could choreograph their own ballet? This gentle humor reminds you that reverence and playfulness can coexist. A real-life anecdote surfaces. A friend of yours once lit only a single lamp in his living room to coax himself into writing. At first, he felt awkward, as though he were scribbling in a cave. But as the pool of light expanded, shadows stretched across the walls like attentive listeners. He found that the darkness urged his ideas forward, and his best paragraphs emerged in the interplay of lamp and shadow. He later laughed. "Turns out my imagination needed an audience of darkness to perform." His experiment highlights the principle that creativity often dances in the space between clarity and mystery. You inhale the evening air, fragrant with cedarwood and damp earth, and exhale slowly, letting the grove's hush settle around you. You ask yourself, what parts of my own mind have I avoided because they lurk in shadow? Perhaps it's a long-forgotten dream, uncomfortable truth, or a silent fear. This open reflection question floats between the bamboo trunks, which hidden corners of your being are waiting to be welcomed into the light. Continuing deeper, you see shadows layering one silhouette overlaying another, creating shapes that shift constantly. A nearby stone statue of a meditating monk is half in darkness, half in lantern glow, its features both sharp and soft. You approach and place a hand on its cool surface, feeling the carved lines under your palm. In that contact, you sense how the statue itself embodies balance, neither fully visible nor fully hidden. The philosophical principle deepens contrast, gives rise to definition, just as you would not notice the statue's serene smile without the interplay of light and dark. You would not recognize your strengths without acknowledging your shadows. Each trait, patience, resilience, compassion shines more brightly against the backdrop of doubt or discomfort. You might smile quietly and whisper, "Thank you, shadows, for showing me where I truly stand." A second anecdote emerges. A photographer you know once captured a portrait of his grandmother by a single window at dusk. He asked her to sit perfectly still, and he framed her face so that one side lay in shadow, the other in pale light. When he saw the image, he realized the contrast revealed her lifetime of joy and sorrow. Each wrinkle and curve held stories. He joked, her wrinkles deserve their own stage lights. But more deeply, that portrait taught him that life's richness comes from honoring both our bright moments and our shaded ones. You pause, letting the lesson seep in, and notice how your own shadow falls long behind you, merging with those of the bamboos. You imagine your shadow as a companion, loyal, silent, ever-present. You might chuckle at the thought that guy's been tagging along since day one. The gentle humor keeps your practice light. As the grove path bends around a stone trough filled with water, you see the lantern light ripple across its surface, casting dancing reflections of overhanging leaves. You lean over and watch the mirrored shadows drift, forming abstract patterns before dissolving again. In that liquid dance, you witness another insight. Reflection is more than seeing a copy. It is an act of transformations. Your thoughts, memories, and emotions reflect in the mind's mirror. By observing them, you gain clarity and can let them flow on. A Zen parable returns. A monk gazed into a still pond and asked, "What do you see?" The student answered, "My face." The master replied, "What appears is not truly you. It is the pond's mirror." Who are you when the pond is stirred? From that question, the student learned that identity is not fixed by reflection, but fluid, shaped by the movement of inner and outer worlds. You carry that question softly. Who are you when reflected shadows shift? You rise from the trough's edge, the cool stone pressing through your robe, and resume your walk. Each step feels charged with purpose, to notice the dance of shadows, to honor their lessons, and to trust that light emerges most purely when contrasted with darkness. You step into a narrow clearing where the last vestiges of dusk yield to soft lantern glow, and you notice the precise boundary where light meets shadow, a slender line that defines both in a single stroke. Here, at the light's edge, you discover clarity by observing the boundary between illumination and obscurity. Your eyes adjust as the warm amber flickers against velvety darkness, and you sense that meaning often lies not in the glare of brightness or the depth of darkness alone, but in the meeting point where they converge. That the philosophical principle emerges, definition arises at boundaries. Just as day and night define one another at dawn, your own wisdom crystallizes when you pay attention to transitional spaces in your life. Those moments between joy and sorrow, certainty and doubt, action and rest. By studying the edge where opposites touch, you gain insight into both realms more deeply than by standing solely within either. A Zen parable floats to mind. A master placed a single candle at the center of a dark courtyard and invited his students to stand at its edge. He said, "Notice the hour when shadow and flame converse." The students observed as the candlelight stretched outward, then receded, dancing at the edge of darkness. The master whispered, "In that meeting, you learn the shape of reality, for truth lives in the space between." In that ancient courtyard, the students realized that to understand light, one must study its border with shadow. You inhale the crisp evening air tinged with sandalwood, and you exhale a soft sigh. letting the boundary hold your attention. A delicate breeze stirs fallen leaves, rustling like a silent applause for the candle's gentle stand. You might chuckle softly, who knew my whole world fit into that thin line? The humor is like a lantern's wink, reminding you that even profound lessons can wear a playful mask. In that moment, a real-life anecdote emerges. A colleague you know struggled to set healthy boundaries between work and personal time. He tried scheduling meetings back-to-back, believing productivity belonged in the sunlit hours of his schedule, and relegated relaxation to the shadows of late night. Exhaustion crept in when his workday blurred into his evenings, leaving him unable to distinguish one from the other. One evening, he took a walk at twilight and watched the border of sky and earth glow in a fleeting band of rose and gold. He realized he needed to carve a similar transition in his life, a ritual to mark the shift from work to rest. He began closing his laptop at 600 p.m., lighting a single candle and spending 15 minutes in stillness before dinner. Over weeks, that candlelit pause created a living boundary between his roles, granting him renewed focus by day and gentle peace by night. He laughed and said, "Turns out my schedule needed sunset more than sunrise." That anecdote offers you an open reflection question. Where in your life have you blurred boundaries so thoroughly that you've lost sight of distinct moments or roles? Perhaps you mix work and leisure so often that neither feels satisfying, or you rush from one task to the next without pausing to mark completion. You might answer the way you scroll through messages while cooking dinner or check emails in bed before sleep. This question drifts through your mind like the edge of a wave, inviting you to identify areas that crave clear definition. As you walk, you come upon a low stone wall, moss-covered and ancient, dividing a shaded garden from a sunlit grove. You place your palm on the cool stone and feel its quiet strength. On one side, shadows pool in a circle of ferns. On the other, soft light bathes a ring of lotus blossoms. You kneel to trace the line of moss with your fingertip, witnessing how the stone mediates between two realms. In that simple gesture, you embody the balance of light's edge, honoring both sides while standing squarely in between. A second Zen parable emerges. A novice monk complained to his teacher that he felt torn between devotion and doubt. The teacher led him to a shallow stream where sunlight danced on rippling water. Pointing to the flash of light at each crest, she asked, "Do you see only light or only shadow beneath?" The novice peered and answered, "I see both reflected at every moment." The teacher smiled. Your mind is that stream. Clarity arises when you let light and dark pass through together, rather than denying either. From then on, the novice practiced holding both faith and uncertainty as equal companions, finding wisdom at their intersection. You rise, letting the image of rippling light settle into your chest. You continue onward, stepping from sunlit stone to mossy shade, letting each shift guide your awareness. In the pool of light, your boot's tread is crisp and audible. In the soft darkness, each footfall dissolves into silence. This contrast reveals a third philosophical insight. Movement between defined spaces offers perspective by traversing edges. You understand both territories more fully than by remaining inside one. You reach a small wooden gate that separates a lantern-lit path from a grotto of leaning bamboos. The gate's threshold is empty, a frame through which you glimpse both worlds. You push it open slowly, noticing the hinges creak and the shift in air. Test. A gentle humor tickles you. Gatekeeping the grandest truths, you murmur, reminding you that transitions can be both mundane and sacred. Stepping through, you find yourself beneath a canopy where shafts of light pierce dense leaves and sharp beams. Dust motes drift in the illuminated columns like tiny spirits dancing in spotlights. You let your gaze follow one beam, tracing how it slices through shadow to reveal hidden patterns on the forest floor. You ask, in which spaces of my life might I illuminate hidden patterns by allowing a shaft of focused awareness? Maybe it's paying undivided attention during a conversation, or setting aside time to journal without distraction. This open reflection question lingers like sunlight on moss. As you move on, you notice how your own shadow stretches along the path's edge, crisp against the glowing stones. You imagine it as both companion and guide, echoing your every step. You smile and whisper, "Don't wander too far, friend," and feel the intimacy of walking with your own darkness. In that companionship, you realize that light's edge is not a line of separation, but a meeting point where you and your shadow commune. You continue deeper into the grove, carrying the lantern's glow in your heart. You understand that by studying the boundary between clarity and mystery, you cultivate a mind that celebrates both certainty and wonder. Each boundary you honor in life between work and rest, speaking and listening, doing and being becomes a lantern lighting the path ahead. You drift onward into a grove where myriad branches intertwine overhead, and the interplay of moonlight and shadow conjures hidden shapes dancing across the forest floor. A twisted root becomes the silhouette of a crouching fox. A cluster of moss resembles a sleeping cat, and a fallen leaf maps the contours of a distant mountain. You realize here that shapes emerge from shifting silhouettes, teaching you to look beyond the obvious and discover unexpected forms in life's subtle patterns. The philosophical principle takes form. Perception is a creative act. Your mind fills in gaps, weaving fragments of light and dark into meaningful images. Just as the brain assembles stars into constellations, you assemble shadow and light into symbols that guide your imagination and insight. When you learn to see the hidden shapes within shifting circumstances, you uncover fresh perspectives and unlock new pathways of understandings. A real-life anecdote surfaces. A friend of yours was stuck in a creative rut while sketching outdoors. Frustrated by blank paper, she stared at overlapping tree branches until she noticed the negative space form the outline of a koi fish, and inspired, she translated that shape into an intricate woodblock print, blending forest motifs with aquatic grace. She laughed later. Turns out my art teacher was the night sky all along. Her moment of discovery reminds you that brilliance often lies in the spaces you initially overlook. A Zen parable drifts into your awareness. A master once led his student to a moonlit courtyard and said, "Show me the shape of the stone." The disciple stared, puzzled, until the master tapped the stone's shadow with his stick. The disciple saw that the shadow resembled a serene Buddha's profile. The master explained, "The stone itself is unremarkable, but its shadow reveals your mind's eye." Cultivate vision, and even the mundane will teach you. That lesson echoes now. Hidden shapes reveal both the world's wonder and the mind's creative power. As you step forward, your foot brush stirs a swirl of fallen leaves, and their scattered forms momentarily sketch fleeting shapes at your feet. You chuckle softly to yourself, my own Rorschach test, and feel delight at the forest's playful invitation. A second joke emerges when you glimpse a pair of roots threaded like a heart. Forest loves poetry, too. You muse, smiling at nature's secret messages. Your breath deepens as you squint toward a tangle of vines hanging from an oak. In that shifting tangle, you discern the outline of a wise old face, complete with furrowed brow and gentle smile. You pause, fingertips brushing the bark, and sense the forest's wisdom gazing back at you. This silent exchange reveals a second principle. Symbols arise when you allow imagination to partner with observation. The world whispers its teachings in shapes you actively choose to find. You inhale the scent of damp wood and exhale a soft sigh of wonder, and an open reflection question surfaces. What hidden patterns have you missed because you were too focused on the real shapes before you? Perhaps you overlooked kindness disguised as criticism, or opportunity masked by obstacles. You might answer the supportive presence in a colleague's hard feedback, or the lesson within a setback. Let this question swirl in your mind like the shapes around you, continuing on. You approach a clearing where moonlight filters through fronds, and the dancing shadows resemble swirling koi in a pond of darkness. You crouch low, tracing the patterns with your eyes, and imagine fins flickering beneath imagined water. You joke to yourself, I should start calling this the Nightfish Lake, and feel warmth as playfulness softens your focus. A third philosophical insight emerges. Creativity grows when you embrace ambiguity. By allowing shapes to remain indeterminate, neither fixed nor absent, you give your mind room to explore, invent, and connect. Ambiguity is the fertile ground where imagination and insight co-create. You might smile and whisper, who knew shapeshifting could teach me to flex my mental muscles? A second anecdote: Drift, a writer you admire, used to carry a small flashlight on nighttime walks. She trained herself to shine the beam low across tree trunks, studying the interplay of bark ridges and light until new story ideas surfaced from the grooves. She joked, my best characters were born from tree wrinkles. Her ritual of exploring hidden shapes sparked narratives that flowed effortlessly once she returned to her desk. You rise from your crouch and stretch, feeling enlivened by the grove's creative invitation. Each step now feels like a searchlight, illuminating unseen connections and encouraging you to reinterpret your surroundings. You step over a mossy stone shaped like a lotus bloom and whisper, thanks for the floral interlude, acknowledging the forest's willingness to serve as muse, faimasas. As you press on, you notice your own shadow splitting into multiple limbs where uneven ground distorts your silhouette. You watch the fragmented shapes merge again as you level out, and you laugh inwardly, my personal shadow remix. That playful self-awareness reveals a final principle for this section. Identity is a shape-shifting tapestry woven from light and shadow. By observing your own shifting silhouette, your feelings, roles, beliefs, you learn to honor the fluid nature of self. You inhale once more, letting the forest's nocturnal shapes settle in your mind. You ask yourself one last reflection question. How might you embrace the ambiguity in your own life to spark creativity and deepen self-understanding? Maybe you'll allow for multiple interpretations of a challenge or reframe a weakness as an opportunity. Carry this question forward as you continue your moonlit journey. You step from the moonlit thicket into a small glade where a lantern hangs from a low branch, its golden glow carving stark silhouettes on nearby rocks. The moment you enter its circle, you feel the magnetic pull between light and dark. Each intensifies the other, creating a living contrast that hums with quiet energy. Here, you learn that opposites define each other in life. Joy feels more precious after sorrow. Courage shines brighter in the face of fear, and wisdom deepens when contrasted with confusion. As your foot crosses into the lantern's arc, you notice how the edges of shadow cling to every contour. The rough bark of an old oak, the mossy layer hugging a stone, even the fine lines of cracks in the earthen floors. Each boundary between glow and gloom is etched with clarity, revealing details that elude both full brightness and total darkness. You sense a philosophical principle materialize. Definition arises through contrast. Just as ink on paper gains meaning against blank white, your inner qualities emerge most vividly when set against their counterparts. A Zen parable drifts into your awareness. A master once presented his students with two bowls, one filled with bright water, the other with inky black. He asked them to taste each, then to describe the flavors. They hesitated, finding neither sweet nor sour, only stillness. The master smiled and said, "The taste lies in the space between flavors, in the act of distinguishing one from the other. His lesson meaning arises not from any single element, but from the dialogue between them." You inhale the cool night air, smelling faint traces of lotus blossoms carried on a distant breeze. You exhale slowly, letting the lantern's warmth settle in your chest. A soft chuckle escapes. "All I needed was a talking bowl," you muse, appreciating the parable's playful wisdom. This gentle humor reminds you that profound truths often wear simple masks. A real-life anecdote surfaces. A sculptor, carved marble statues under bright studio lights, and then studied them under dim evening lamps. She found that strong overhead lighting flattened details, while low-angle lighting cast deep shadows that revealed hidden textures and expressive lines. She joked, "My statues have secret lives after sunset." Yet more deeply, her practice taught her that a single object holds multitudes, each facet uncovered by shifting contrasts. You walk toward a mossy stone bench illuminated at its edge, and you place your hands on its cool surface. In the boundary where light fades, you notice minute carvings, delicate lotus petals, and swirling clouds that were invisible in darkness and under direct glare. You trace the designs with your fingertips and realize they mirror the patterns of your own mind, subtle insights buried until illuminated by contrast. You ask yourself, in what areas of your life have you overlooked nuances because you assumed brightness or darkness told the whole story? Perhaps you judged a person too quickly or dismissed an experience as wholly good or bad. This open reflection question hovers like the lantern's glow. What subtleties await your discovery when you pause at life's edges? Continuing, you leave the lantern's halo and step into a narrow corridor of shadowed bamboo. Here, darkness holds sway, yet strands of moonlight pierce the stalks, forming thin ribbons of hope. You tilt your head, watching how each beam carves a precise path through the gloom. In this interplay, you glimpse a second philosophical principle. Presence emerges in the tension between extremes. Just as silence gives shape to sound, the space between bitterness and sweetness creates the flavor of life's richest experiences. A second Zen parable surfaces. A master and student walked along a mountain path at dawn. The student complained about the chill of the shadows and the glare of the rising sun. The master paused and asked him to cup his hands, one in shadow, the other in sunlight. When the student compared each, he realized the warmth of his own breath filled both hands equally. The master said, "True warmth knows no boundary. It carries you through both light and dark." From that moment, the student learned that inner qualities transcend external contrast. You pause to cup your hands around the faint glow of a firefly, feeling its warmth like a secret ember. You laugh softly, "Tiny sun in my palm," and sense the shift from outer contrasts to inner constancy. The firefly's gentle light reminds you that your own essence persists beyond shifting circumstances. As you move onward, you notice your shadow stretching long behind you, its edges crisper where lantern light meets darkness. You sense the silent dance between your silhouette and the earth, each step reshaping the interplay of form and void. You observe that your actions define you as much as your intentions. Your choices gain depth when played against challenges. A second anecdote drifts forward. A baker, tested her bread at sunrise and again at midday. She discovered that dough that felt just right under the cooler dawn light fermented too quickly under the afternoon sun. She learned to adjust her recipe by reading subtle shifts in temperature and humidity contrasts that taught her flexibility. She quipped, "My bread can't tell time, but my oven can." Yet behind the humor lay a deeper lesson. Wisdom arises when you embrace changing conditions rather than resisting them. You step onto a weathered wooden bridge where lanterns hang on each post, casting alternating bands of light and shadow across the planks. With each footfall, you feel the contrast under your soles, one board gleaming, the next sinking into muted darkness. This tactile alternation reminds you that life's rhythm depends on the interplay of rest and action, breath and pause, challenge and ease, and mode. You might whisper, "Balance is my favorite bridge," acknowledging that equilibrium is forged in contrast. A third philosophical insight emerges: harmony is not uniformity, but the artful arrangement of differences. Just as the symphony blends loud and soft, fast and slow, your life's melody gains depth through varied notes. You carry this insight in your chest like a lantern's ember, warming you from within. You approach the far end of the bridge, where light dissolves into trees. Marsan. A final reflection question drifts to mind. How can you honor contrasts in your own life, welcoming both comfort and challenge to create a more vibrant, balanced existence? You hold this question gently as you step off the bridge, letting the echoes of light and shadow guide your way. Non-stop demonstrators. You emerge into a moonlit glade where silvered grass ripples like water, and you sense the hush before a story unfolds. Here, you meet the fox whose keen eyes gleam with moonlight as she pads silently through the shadows, her form barely more than a flicker between blades of grass. You watch her silhouette trace arcs across the field, teaching you that sometimes wisdom walks in silence, revealed through subtle movement rather than loud proclamation. In this moment, you learn the parable of the fox, and her moonlit hunt insight often arrives when you move with quiet intention rather than frantic pursuit. The philosophical principle reveals itself, subtlety conveys depth. The fox does not bolt at her prey, but circles carefully, reading the dark, feeling the light, waiting for the perfect moment. In life, you too gain clarity not by rushing toward answers, but by attuning to nuances, listening to soft guidance, rather than demanding immediate outcomes. Presence cultivated in stillness often unveils truths that speed obscures. A Zen tale drifts to you: a master sent a novice into the forest to catch a fox in the moonlight. The student ran blindly, crashing through underbrush, but never saw the creature. Finally, he stopped, breathed deeply, and the fox approached unafraid, pressing close under the glow of the moon. The master later said, "Stillness invites the unseen to reveal itself." That story reminds you that silence and patience can summon what eludes force. You inhale the crisp night air, scented with wet earth and pine resin, and exhale softly, feeling the fox's quiet presence resonate within you. You might smile at the thought, "I guess my chase strategy needs a timeout," gently mocking your own impulsiveness. That humor warms your chest, softening the lesson with grace. In real life, a friend of yours sought inspiration for his painting in the same way he chased grand ideas through bustling galleries but felt uninspired. One evening, he sat alone in his garden by moonlight, sketching shadows cast by a single lantern. In those muted tones, he discovered forms rich with emotion and depth. He later quipped, "My best art was made in the quiet corner of my yard." His experience shows that letting go of the chase often illuminates creativity. You step closer to the fox, who pauses and looks back, as if inviting you to follow. You do, moving softly, matching your pace to her deliberate tread. With each step, you notice how her ears twitch at distant sounds, how her tail sways like a pendulum of focus. In that shadow play, you glean another insight: attention is honed by restraint. When you curb the urge to dart in all directions, You channel awareness into each measured movement. A gentle breeze stirs the grass, and you realize that the fox and you share a secret wisdom is not seized but coaxed by stillness. You might chuckle inwardly. Next time I'll bring fox treats, imagining a playful bribe for life's subtle lessons. The humor ties the moment together, reminding you that practice needn't be solemn. Your reflection question surfaces: in which areas of your life have you charged ahead so forcefully that you missed the guiding signals around you? Perhaps you rushed a conversation before truly listening, or pursued solutions without sensing deeper needs. You might answer career decisions made too hastily, or creative projects abandoned before ideas fully formed. Let this question linger like fox tracks in the grass, inviting you to follow the softer lead. The fox slips away into the undergrowth, and you pause to watch her vanish into shadow. In the emptiness she leaves, you sense her gift, the parable of patient presence. You inhale again, imagining her fur brushing your awareness. Then exhale, releasing any tension you've carried. A second Zen parable arises. A traveler seeking the meaning of life asked a hermit, who pointed to a fox den and said, "Learn from those who move in darkness with sure-footed grace." The traveler followed the fox until dawn, and at sunrise understood that life's greatest insights often emerge under veiled light, revealed through quiet courage. That tale lifts your spirit, reminding you that bravery can be gentle. You rise from the glade's edge, carrying the fox's silent lesson in your bones. Mamau. Each subsequent step feels guided by her nocturnal wisdom, teaching you to tread with patience, curiosity, and respect for the unseen. And you follow the fox's fading silhouette until you reach a narrow, winding path lined with ancient stone lanterns. Each lantern's gentle glow casts a guiding beam that pierces the darkness, creating stepping stones of light along the trail. As you place one foot in each illuminated circle, you learn to trust subtle guidance rather than forging new routes by force. The lesson emerges: sometimes the smallest light suffices to show the next step when embraced with faith and attentiveness. Imagine navigating a pitch-black forest with only a handful of lanterns to mark your way. Or you could stumble blindly, or you could pause at each lamp, allow its warmth to settle in, and then press forward with quiet confidence. Here, your path reveals itself one glow at a time, teaching you that trust in small beacons builds momentum through the darkest stretches. A Zen parable surfaces: a weary pilgrim lost in a mountain pass stumbled upon a single lantern hung from a mossy branch. Hesitant, he crouched to light his own lantern from its flame. Then, with gentle reverence, he passed the borrowed light to the next traveler's lamp. The master later said, "Light multiplies when shared. Your journey brightens as you kindle others." In that sharing, the pilgrim discovered that guidance grows when generosity meets need. You inhale the lantern-scented air, tinged with melted wax and crisp night chill, and exhale a breath of gratitude. You might smilingly remark to yourself, "I didn't know old oil could feel so empowering," delighting in the lantern's humble majesty. This lighthearted humor keeps your heart open to simple wonders. A real-life anecdote comes to mind. A teacher you admire began each class by lighting a single candle at her desk. She found that students who entered the room slowed their chatter, drawn by the flickering flame. In the shifting light, they listened more deeply. Questions took on new depth, and learning felt like a shared journey. She later quipped, "One wick can outshine 1,000 PowerPoints." Her ritual reveals how small actions can guide collective hearts toward presence. You step through the lantern-lit trail, noticing how shadows contract and expand in each pool of light. Between lamps, darkness cradles your senses, reminding you that absence of glow need not equal absence of direction. It invites deeper listening for inner guidance. You might muse quietly, "Darkness, I'll meet you halfway, acknowledging the partnership between light and shade. Your reflection question emerges. In what areas of your life have you overlooked gentle guides because you sought grand solutions? Perhaps you ignored a mentor's brief advice, or bypassed small moments of insight waiting in quiet reflection. You might answer a passing compliment you dismissed, or a fleeting intuition you silenced. Let this question glow softly like lantern light in your mind. As you near the path's end, you pass the final lantern, a simple iron stand bearing a single flame that dances in the breeze. You pause, cup your hands around the flame's warmth, and feel the lineage of light bearers stretching behind you. In that moment, you understand that guidance, though sometimes modest, leaves a trail of illumination that you can follow and share. You stand, carrying the lantern's glow within your chest, knowing that wherever darkness falls, you need only light one small lamp to find your way. The lantern-lit path guides you to a quiet clearing where the moon's pale glow drapes a small grove of cherry blossoms, their petals casting dancing shadows on the soft grass. Here, you sense a gentle merging light and shadow entwined in a soft eclipse, neither overpowering the other but creating a moment of serene unity. In this brief merging, you learn that wholeness arises when opposites meet and harmonize rather than compete. A philosophical principle unfolds. Completeness is found in integration. Just as the moon's light softly bleeds into the night sky, illuminating its own absence, you discover that embracing both your strengths and vulnerabilities creates a fuller, more resilient self. When you allow differing parts of your experience to blend joy with sorrow, confidence with humility, you cultivate a richer, more authentic presence. You recall a Zen parable a master once showed his students how the full moon's reflection shone brightest on still water, but vanished when ripples disturbed the surface. He explained, in stillness, your entire nature reflects without distortion. In motion, each wave reveals a new facet. Through this, you understand that unity and diversity coexist within the quiet pool of awareness. A light smile drifts to your lips as you watch a single petal drift down and land softly in a pool of moonlit shadow, stirring delicate ripples. You might chuckle softly, even blossoms need an eclipse to make a splash. This gentle humor reminds you that playfulness deepens insight. A real-life anecdote surfaces. A musician friend performed a duet blending piano and cello, each instrument's range contrasting yet complementing the other. They discovered that when their notes overlapped, a new harmony emerged, neither instrument dominated. Together, they created a resonance richer than solo performances. She later said with a grin, "Our best notes happen when we learn to listen to each other." Her experience reveals how integration transforms separate voices into unified wisdom. You stand beneath the cherry trees, letting the eclipse of moonlight and shadow fill you with equilibrium. You ask yourself, in which areas of your life could you welcome contrasting elements, work and rest, ambition and contentment to create harmonious balance? Perhaps you'll schedule both focused productivity and carefree play in your day, or allow both bold goals and quiet reflection to shape your journey. Let this question bloom like petals in moonlight. Rising, you step away from the petals' hushed dance and continue along the soft grass, carrying the lesson of integration into each subsequent moment. You step softly to the edge of a moonlit pond, its surface as smooth as polished jade, and lean forward until your reflection shimmers into view there. You witness wisdom in a still pond's mirror. The water holds your face, framed by bamboo stalks and lantern glow. And in that quiet duplex of light and image, you learn a profound lesson. Reflection reveals truth when you still the ripples of distraction. The philosophical principle emerges. Clarity arises in stillness, but Just as a pond's mirror stirs and clouds when you toss in pebbles, your mind's mirror, your capacity to see yourself and the world, becomes distorted by the stones of worry, planning, and regret. Only when you pause, breathe, and quiet the currents can you observe your own depths with honesty. You recall a Zen parable. A monk led his disciple to a mountain spring and asked him what he saw. The disciple answered, "My face." The master then threw a handful of mud into the pool, clouding the water. He waited until the sediment settled, then said, "True knowing comes when you wait for the water to calm." In that simple act, you understand that the mind's mirror your awareness requires patience to return to clarity after the disturbances of daily life. You inhale the night air scented with lotus and exhale slowly, noticing how your breath steadies the pond's edge. A soft joke drifts through your mind. "I just hope I don't see a raccoon grin back." And you smile, lightening the sacred moment with playful caution. A real-life anecdote comes to you. A friend of yours began her mornings with a reflection ritual in a small courtyard fountain. She would stand quietly for 5 minutes, watching droplets fall and rings spread, matching each inhalation to the circle's expansion and each exhale to its return to stillness. She discovered that her afternoon decisions, often reactionary and fraught, became measured and thoughtful. She laughed one afternoon. Turns out watching water circles is cheaper than therapy and less splashy. Her experience shows that even a simple reflective moment can transform a day's worth of scattered thoughts. You crouch further, fingertips nearly skimming the glassy surface, and notice the aquatic lilies floating like pale lanterns. Their circular pads cast subtle shadows beneath, forming concentric patterns you might have overlooked if you'd rushed past. This interplay of form, shadow, and reflection reveals another insight. Truth often lies in layered perspectives. What you see depends not only on what's above the surface, but also on what lies just beneath. You ask yourself, what layers of my own experience remain hidden until I pause to reflect? Perhaps the root of a recurring anxiety, the source of a long-forgotten aspiration, or the quiet gratitude buried beneath complaint. Let this question rest on your tongue like a lotus seed, waiting to germinate in stillness. As you rise, you take one last look at your mirrored image, now steady and bright. Behind you, the soft glow of lanterns and the quiet silhouette of bamboo merge seamlessly with your reflection, reminding you that self-awareness and your environment co-create one another. You smile softly. I'm half monastery architect, half bamboo engineer. You muse inwardly, enjoying the absurdity of your imagined job titles. Continuing along the pond's edge, you come upon a small wooden bench partially submerged. Its seat is damp and cool, inviting you to sit. You settle and rest your palms on your knees, closing your eyes to listen. In the silence, you hear the faint drip of a single droplet landing on a lily pad, sending tiny ripples that vanish almost instantly. In that sound, you perceive the rhythm of your own thoughts, settling each ripple a thought released, returning you to inner stillness. A second Zen parable surfaces. A traveling sage once invited villagers to place messages on a lantern and set them adrift on the river. He explained, each note carries your hopes, fears, and secrets. Watch how the current carries them away. As the lanterns drifted in silence, villagers felt unburdened, their hearts lighter. The sage smiled and said, reflection alone is not enough. Release brings deeper clarity. His words remind you that reflection without release can trap you in old patterns. But when you let go, like sending a lantern downstream, you create space for new insight. You inhale deeply, picturing your own lantern message, perhaps a regret or a wish floating away on dark water. You exhale, imagining the pond receiving it without judgment. A gentle humor tickles your senses. I hope my message isn't asking for too many helpings of ice cream. And you laugh softly at your own sweet indulgence. In the hush that follows, you notice the stars reflected in the pond's far edge, merging sky and water in a silent mosaic. You realize that outer and inner landscapes mirror each other. That cosmos in the water reflects the cosmos within you. By observing the pond, you observe yourself in relation to the universe. This third principle, Dawn's interconnectedness, emerges through reflection. By stilling your mind, you see both the small self and the vast whole mirrored together. You stand and place your hand lightly on the bench's damp wood, feeling its grain and the faint pulse of cooled night. You sense that your reflections, like the pond's surface, are shaped both by your touch and by the unseen depths below. You consider, how might my actions, gentle or firm, shape not only surface impressions, but the deeper currents of my life? This open reflection question hovers as you step away from the water, carrying its quiet clarity within your chest. With steady steps, you leave the pond behind, its still mirror echoing in your mind's eye. You turn back once more, gifting a silent nod to the water's patient wisdom, and continue along the lantern-lit path, your heart lighter, your mind more luminous. You step from the pond's reflective stillness into a sheltered grove of towering cedars, and you find comfort in the cool shade beneath their broad boughs. Here, shadow offers respite, a protective canopy that softens the world's glare and invites you to rest in gentle coolness. In this embrace of shade, you learn that darkness can be a sanctuary rather than a barrier. Shadows shield you from harsh light and grant permission to slow your breath, soften your gaze, and simply be. The philosophical principle emerges: protection arises in darkness as much as illumination does in light. Just as seedlings require the shade of larger plants to sprout and thrive, you too need moments of respite, times when you withdraw from constant stimulation and allow your spirit to regenerate. In the quiet cool of these cedars, you sense that rest woven into your journey is as essential as the steps themselves. You inhale the scent of damp needles and moss, cool and earthy on your tongue, and exhale tension that you hadn't realized was lodged in your shoulders. A soft breeze stirs, and you watch sunbeams flicker at the grove's edges like distant stars peeking around a curtain, reminding you that light need not flood every corner for you to feel its presence. A gentle smile plays on your lips as you whisper to yourself, "Even the sun respects my need for shade," planting a seed of humor that lightens your heart. A real-life anecdote drifts into your awareness. A friend of yours, overwhelmed by digital screens, began taking shadow breaks each afternoon, stepping into a quiet room with blackout curtains drawn. No sound, no light, only the hushed comfort of darkness. At first, the stillness felt disorienting, as though she'd stumbled into a cave rather than a sanctuary. But within minutes, her mind stilled, creativity stirred, and when she emerged, she carried a calm focus that fueled her evening work. She later laughed. "Turns out my best ideas were hiding in the corners." Her ritual teaches you that embracing shade can illuminate new depths within. As you move deeper into the grove, you notice how your shadow stretches and shrinks with each shift of sun and leaf, molding itself to the contours of root and rock. You pause and lean against a cedar's broad trunk, closing your eyes to feel its steady presence. In that contact, you sense the tree's quiet strength, grounded roots drawing nourishment from soil hidden in darkness, feeding the branches that reach for sky. This silent communion illustrates another principle: support often springs from unseen depths. A Zen parable surfaces a master once guided his students to rest beneath a canopy of pines. He instructed them to lie on their backs and close their eyes. After a time, he asked, "What did you feel?" One said, "The wind." Another said, "The earth's heartbeat." Yet another whispered, "I felt nothing but peace." The master smiled and replied, "In shadowed rest, you discover the roots of your own being." Through that simple act, the students learned that surrendering to darkness reveals the deep cradle of life's sustenance. You inhale again, tasting the cedar's resin, and exhale a sigh of release. You open your eyes to find a single shaft of light piercing the gloom, illuminating a cluster of delicate ferns at your feet. In that spotlight, you notice veins like tributaries on each frond, hidden networks of life nourished by the shade above. You kneel to trace the fern's outline with a fingertip, marveling at how the smallest life form flourishes without direct sunlight. This observation reveals a third principle: growth can occur in hidden places when you provide gentle protection rather than constant exposure. Your playful humor returns as you gently brush the fern's edge and murmur, "You've got shade figured out better than me," acknowledging nature's wisdom with a grin. In that lighthearted moment, you honor the fern's quiet resilience and your own capacity to welcome rest. An open reflection question drifts to mind. In your own life, where could you create protective shade, moments of quiet rest and sanctuary to foster deeper growth? Perhaps you'll designate an unplugged hour, step into a peaceful corner for mindful breath, or allow yourself a nap without guilt. Consider what hidden depths might awaken when you honor the gift of shade. Continuing along the soft, needle-strewn floor, you find a moss-covered stone bench nestled in full shadow. You sit and let your spine lengthen naturally, hands resting softly on your knees, eyes half closed. You watch the dim outlines of cedar trunks sway overhead. In that muted landscape, each flicker of movement draws your attention inward, revealing the subtle play of thoughts beneath your own mind's canopy. A second anecdote appears. A mentor you admire once taught that every evening, she spent 10 minutes in her shadow room, a dim, candleless space where she listened to silence. She said that in the darkness, she heard truths she'd overlooked in daylight: compassion for herself, clarity on relationships, and hope for tomorrow. She chuckled when recalling how difficult it was at first, but insisted that those dark minutes became her most precious daily practice. Her story reminds you that reflection in shade can illuminate what bright scrutiny obscures. Rising from the bench, you press your palm to the cedar's bark once more, feeling its steady pulse of life, and you whisper, "Thank you for teaching me rest," acknowledging the grove's gift of shade. Each subsequent step feels softer, more deliberate, as though you carry the grove's protective embrace within your bones. A third philosophical insight emerges: resilience flourishes beneath shelter. Just as a sapling that grows under a forest canopy can withstand storms better than one exposed on a hillside, you strengthen your capacity to weather life's challenges when you honor times of rest and refuge. You carry this insight in your chest like a hidden lantern, ready to light your way when days grow bright and burdensome once more. You step out of the grove's shade into a narrow beam of evening sunlight that streams through the branches, outlining your form in gentle radiance. In that moment of transition, you feel renewed, rested, focused, and ready to move forward with both gentleness and clarity. You ask one final reflection question for this section. How will you weave protective shade into your daily path to nurture resilience and quiet growth? You carry the question like a frond of fern, knowing its roots run deep within. With a steady breath and a soft smile, you continue on, your heart holding the embrace of shadow as a blessing and a guide. Stepping beyond the grove's protective darkness, you find yourself on a sunlit clearing at the forest edge. where beams of fading dusk pierce through maple branches, igniting golden pools on the mossy floor. Here, you remember the lesson of shadow rebellion. Sometimes the bravest act is to step into brightness when accustomed to hiding in shade. As you cross the threshold, you feel warmth unfurl in your chest, a gentle reminder that confronting your fears with light can dissolve their power. The philosophical principle emerges: courage is born in illumination. Just as a moth flutters toward a flame despite the risk, you summon bravery by choosing visibility over concealment. Hiding may feel safe, but growth demands exposing your edges to light. When you stand where shadows once cowered, you claim your right to exist fully, no longer a silhouette at the margins, but a being bathed in radiance. You inhale the sweet earthiness of crushed leaves warmed by sun and exhale a steady sigh, releasing the tension you carried in hidden places. A soft laugh bubbles up. Guess it's time to stop being a wallflower. You muse, acknowledging your own reluctance to stand in the open. This gentle humor eases your transition from shade to shine. A real-life anecdote surfaces. A colleague of yours, long reserved in group meetings, decided one afternoon to volunteer for a presentation she'd been avoiding. Her voice trembled at first, but as the projector's light washed over her slides and then her face, she felt an unexpected surge of confidence. When she finished, applause greeted her, proof that stepping into the spotlight can transform fear into fuel. She later joked, "Turns out I'm more like a sunflower than a hermit hiding among daisies." Her experience teaches you that boldness lights the path for yourself and others. As you move across the clearing, your shadow shrinks behind you, relinquishing its old territory to the advancing dusk. You notice how each footfall kicks up a swirl of pale leaves and how the sky's colors deepen from gold to soft lavender. In that shifting palette, you recognize another insight: transformation requires movement through varied light. You cannot dwell in dusk forever. You must progress through twilight into the promise of new dawn. You recall a Zen parable. A master asked his students to carry a lantern beyond the monastery gates into the open field at sunrise. Many hesitated, fearing exposure. But those who persevered found that their lantern light lost none of its warmth. Rather, it merged with the dawn's glow, creating a light that neither could achieve alone. The master said, "Your small courage fuels the greater day." In that teaching, you see how your individual act of stepping into light contributes to collective awakening. You pause and draw your hand across a sun-warmed stone, feeling its heat seep into your skin. The stone surface holds no shadows now, only the imprint of your palm and the memory of earlier darkness. You smile at its transformation from anonymous to autograph. You whisper, celebrating the impact of presence. An open reflection question surfaces. In what day-to-day situations have you hidden in comfort zones rather than exposing your light? Perhaps you avoid sharing your true opinions, mask your talents, or shrink from asking for what you need. By identifying these patterns, maybe in conversations, creativity, or relationships, you can choose, like the moth, to navigate toward constructive illumination rather than fearful retreat. Continuing your walk, you follow a shaft of fading sunlight that leads to a weathered footbridge spanning a gentle brook. As you step onto the planks, dappled light dances beneath your feet. You realize how stepping into light often reveals hidden pathways. Where darkness obscured your path, illumination now guides each stride. You murmur with a grin, "Who knew clarity came free with daylight savings," and relish the simplicity of insight delivered by nature's own lighting design. A second Zen parable drifts to mind. A seeker once asked a hermit how to banish the darkness inside. The hermit led him to a cliff at sunrise and stood silently until the first ray broke over the horizon. Then the hermit said, "Darkness is never vanquished by shadow. It retreats before light." The seeker felt warmth in his bones and understood that inviting brightness through knowledge, honesty, or compassion dispels internal gloom more effectively than any attempt to deepen the dark. You step off the bridge and onto a meadow bathed in the afterglow, where wildflowers bow their heads toward the sun's farewell. The petals gleam like tiny lanterns, each a testament to life's capacity for openness. You bend to touch a golden bloom, its surface soft and warm, and consider how your own openness could foster growth in unexpected places, conversations, partnerships, or personal projects. Another real-life anecdote comes: a friend you admire began ending each workday by jotting down one public acknowledgement, thanking a team member, praising a volunteer, or praising a peer's effort in meeting chat. Though vulnerable at first, she found that shining her light on others invited reciprocity, deepened trust, and built a luminous culture. She laughed. "My thank you notes outshine most PowerPoints." Her practice shows that stepping into the light includes lifting others into brightness as well. You rise and face the last rays of sun dipping behind distant hills, feeling a surge of quiet exhilaration. Your heart pulses with the knowledge that fear does not vanish when light arrives. It simply retreats, giving you room to stand tall. You ask a final reflection question for this section. How might you incorporate small acts of visible courage into your life? Sharing praise, revealing your true self, or pursuing a dream to rebel gently against fear? Let this question burn bright, guiding your next steps into the living tapestry of tomorrow's light. You follow a narrow trail into a courtyard of weathered stones, each engraved with ancient characters half eroded by time, and you notice how light and shadow sculpt the engraved lines into living text, revealing that harmony is achieved through equal parts illumination and depth. Here, you explore balance through the interplay of light and dark, understanding that neither dominates, but each completes the other. A philosophical principle arises: true harmony is not uniform brightness, but the artful blend of contrasts. Just as embroidered silk gains its beauty from both vibrant hues and muted threads, your life's tapestry becomes richer when you honor both exuberance and restraint. A Zen parable lends its wisdom. A gardener combines sun-loving blooms with shade-tolerant ferns in a single garden bed. He watched as the flowers thrived under dappled light and the ferns unfurled in the shadows, each enhancing the other's beauty. He taught, harmony grows where differences complement, not compete. You inhale the courtyard's cool air and exhale a soft chuckle, teasing yourself. I guess my life's garden needed both daisies and moss. This humor reminds you that balance can be elegant and playful. A real-life anecdote drifts to your awareness. A chef you admire learned to balance intense flavors, sweet, salty, bitter, by pairing unexpected ingredients. She discovered that a touch of sea salt on dark chocolate awakened new depths, and a drizzle of honey on chili soothed the heat. She laughed. My palate's like a tightrope walker, tension and relief create the thrill. Your reflection question surfaces: in what areas have you sought only one flavor, one extreme, rather than crafting a blend of experiences? Perhaps you chase achievement without rest, or excitement without peace. Consider how mixing contrasting elements work and play. Discipline and spontaneity can spark vibrant harmony. You step lightly between fountains of flickering lanterns, feeling the word harmony resonate in each footfall. The engraved stones seem to hum in agreement, guiding you toward equilibrium in both the garden and your own journey. You step into a grove where dappled moonlight filters through a canopy of interlacing branches, and the shifting patterns of light and dark on the ground begin to dance like playful spirits, Each leaf silhouette becomes a partner in an impromptu ballet, twirling and swaying across moss-covered stones as you walk. In this moment, you reclaim the childlike wonder of shadow play, discovering that even the simplest silhouette can spark delight and insight when viewed with fresh eyes. The philosophical principle emerges: joy flourishes when you embrace playfulness. Just as a child finds endless amusement in her own shadow, you too can unlock creativity and lightness by letting go of solemnity and stepping into curiosity. Play is not frivolous, it is a form of presence that dissolves mental rigidity and opens pathways to insight. You inhale the cool, night-scented air, hints of pine and moist earth, and exhale a soft laugh as you trace a series of overlapping shadows that resemble leaping hares. You might tease yourself, did I just discover the world's first shadow zoo? The humor loosens your shoulders, inviting the mind to wander freely without judgment. A real-life anecdote comes to mind. A graphic designer friend turned off his computer and spent his lunch breaks in the office courtyard, tracing shadow shapes with chalk on the pavement. He discovered a hidden talent for capturing the fluid outlines of branches and leaves, which later inspired a successful line of greeting cards featuring whimsical shadow creatures. He laughed when describing his first gallery showing. Who knew my break time doodles would get me so many compliments? His playful experiment reminds you that creativity often emerges from spontaneous, unpressured moments of exploration. A Zen parable surfaces: a master showed his students how to hold a lantern beneath a tree at dusk. He then instructed them to shift the lantern slowly, watching the branches cast ever-changing silhouettes on the temple wall. He said, "Life's forms are never fixed. Each movement reveals a new shape. Embrace change as if you were dancing with your own shadow." In that teaching, you learn that shadow play mirrors life's impermanent, ever-shifting nature by moving with it. You release the need for certainty and open to possibility. As you continue, your footsteps echo softly on the leaf-strewn path, and you pause to lift a stray twig, angling it so its shadow resembles a soaring bird. You grin and whisper, "Your wingspan is impressive," tipping an imaginary hat to your wooden protagonist. This gentle humor reaffirms that play is a doorway to insight. You step onto a smooth, flat stone and sit cross-legged, using your hands to cast silhouettes on a nearby rock face. Your fingers morph into rabbits, trees, and dragons, each shape fleeting, each laugh genuine. You feel the delight of discovery flood your chest, as though you have unlocked a secret playground hidden within the forest's hush. You ask yourself what everyday objects or routines might sparkle with new magic. If I approach them with a playful heart, perhaps the steam rising from your morning tea could shape clouds, or the shadows of your own hands could tell silent stories. Rising, you let your silhouette merge with the trunk of a grand cedar, arms outstretched like branches themselves. In that union of self and tree, you perceive another philosophical insight: connection deepens through play. When you engage in light-hearted exploration, you dissolve the barrier between observer and observed, weaving yourself into the living tapestry around you. This playful union fosters empathy, wonder, and a sense of belonging. A second anecdote drifts to your memory. A teacher at a children's camp once organized a shadow story circle at twilight. Campers projected their hand-created silhouettes onto a canvas hung between trees, and each child narrated a tale to accompany their shape. The shared laughter and vibrant stories strengthened the group's bonds, teaching the campers and the teacher that play can transform a collection of individuals into a community. Reflecting on this, you realize that shadow play can be a bridge between hearts, dissolving isolation through shared creativity. So, moving on, you approach a shallow pool where moonlight and shadow dance across rippling water. You crouch and dip a finger, creating concentric rings that distort the reflections and spawn new shapes. Floating lotus leaves and dragonfly silhouettes twist into abstract patterns. Each swirl a microcosm of possibility. You whisper, "Water is a master shapeshifter," and feel gratitude for its ever-changing canvas. You inhale the pond's cool breath and exhale slowly, anchoring the lesson in your bones. Adaptability blooms when you flow with change. Just as water's surface mirrors infinite forms, you too can reshape your perspective when you release resistance and embrace the fluid dance of life. An open reflection question emerges. Where in your life have you grown rigid, resisting the playful currents of possibility? Perhaps you cling to a specific outcome, repeat the same routine, or dismiss spontaneous opportunities. Consider, how might injecting play into those areas through experimentation, improvisation, or simply a lighter attitude unlock new creativity and resilience? Standing, you leave the pond and follow the shifting shadows back onto the leaf-littered path. Each step feels lighter, as though the forest has lent you a portion of its playful spirit. You notice a fallen log whose shadow resembles a sleeping dragon. You bow with a soft laugh, honoring the forest's whimsical guardianship. Before the path curves away, you pause and watch your own silhouette stretch across the wooden planks. As you wiggle your fingers and tilt your head, your shadow responds in kind, performing an unspoken duet. In this silent dance, you discover the final insight of play joy is a reflective practice. When you share your lightheartedness, even in solitude, it returns to you multiplied, echoing through the world like ripples on water. With a fresh smile and a fluttering heart, you continue onward, carrying the childlike wonder of shadow play into every step you take. Emerging from the playful grove, you enter a quiet nook where your own inner light waits to be kindled. Here, within the shadows of low-hanging pines, you find a solitary candle placed atop a smooth stone, its flame small but steady in the gentle breeze. As you draw near, you feel the hidden glow within yourself flicker to life, the realization that your own inner light arises from shadowed depths, nurtured by challenges and tempered by stillness. In this moment, you kindle your own glow from shadowed depths. The philosophical principle clarifies self-illumination grows from within. Just as the candle relies on its wick and wax, both forged in darkness to burn brightly, your own radiance emerges when you draw upon inner resources shaped by adversity. By acknowledging your shadow's fears, doubts, past wounds, you gather the fuel for a light that warms both yourself and others. A Zen parable surfaces. A master handed his student a candle and said, "Carry this light within you." The student traveled through caves and dense forests, guarding the flame against wind and rain. At journey's end, the master asked, "Has your flame dimmed?" The student replied, "It burns more brightly now, fed by every gust it survived." The master nodded, "Let your inner light grow stronger where shadows press hardest." That teaching reminds you that hardship, rather than extinguishing your glow, can deepen its brilliance. You inhale the crisp, pine-scented air and exhale a soft sigh, letting the candle's warmth spread through your chest. You smile at its simple steadfastness and tease yourself, "I guess my spirit's got a decent wax reserve." The humor eases any solemnity, reminding you that inner work can be both profound and light-hearted. A real-life anecdote emerges. A friend overcame a season of self-doubt by writing daily affirmations on slips of paper, then lighting a candle to read them each evening. At first, the practice felt awkward. "Who am I to declare greatness?" she laughed. But as she continued, the candlelight came to symbolize her growing self-belief, and the affirmations glowed with genuine conviction. Her inner flame guided her through darker nights, teaching her that self-illumination is a practice of patience and faith. You reach forward and cup your hands around the flickering flame, feeling its gentle heat. In that contact, you sense a transmission light passing from wick to skin, from candle to soul. You hold it for a moment, then set it back upon the stone with reverence, carrying its warmth within your heart. An open reflection question drifts to mind. What practices might you kindle daily to nourish your inner light? Brief moments of gratitude, affirmations spoken by candlelight, or acts of kindness illuminating others. Consider what source of inner warmth you can tend, even when outer conditions grow cold. Rising, you continue along the path now lined with small cairns, each topped by a flickering tea light. Their collective glow guides you through the shadows, reminding you that individual lights, when united, forge a brighter journey for all. You glance at the cairns and whisper, "I'm in good company," embracing how shared illumination amplifies each spark. A second philosophical insight forms: community light grows when individual lights shine together. Just as stars cluster to form constellations, your own glow intersects with others, creating patterns of guidance across the dark. When you nurture your light, you contribute to a broader tapestry of warmth and hope. A Zen parable follows a village elder taught that each home should keep its lamp lit at night so travelers find their way. When all lamps burned together, the village shone like a beacon. The elder said, "Your light matters beyond your own door." This story reminds you that self-illumination extends outward, guiding others through their nights. You pass the tea-light cairns and arrive at a moss-covered shrine where a single, larger lantern stands. Its flame dances within glass panes, casting patterned light that ripples across the shrine's carved symbols. You kneel, bow your head, and breathe in awe at how one steadfast flame can elevate even humble surroundings. In this silent ritual, you honor your own capacity to illuminate both self and world. A third real-life anecdote comes to mind. A teacher once encouraged her students to share one light moment each day, something that made them feel seen or supported. Those shared moments, she said, were like candles passed from hand to hand, weaving a chain of warmth throughout the classroom. She noted, "Each story was a spark that kept our community bright." Her practice underscores how personal illumination becomes collective radiance when shared in trust. Standing, you feel your own inner candle burn steadily within, carried by the lessons of shadow and flame. You step forward into the night, guided by both the lantern's beam and your own heart's glow. You ask one final reflection question for this section. How will you nurture your inner light and share it with those around you, ensuring that your flame and theirs never flickers alone? With a steady breath and gentle resolve, you continue on, the night alive with countless tiny lights mirroring the glow you carry within. You step beyond the grove of tea-light cairns and find yourself on a gentle rise overlooking a valley bathed in moonlight. As you ascend, the air warms slightly, and you feel the hushed invitation of brightness beckoning you forward. In this moment, you enact a quiet rebellion, choosing visibility in a world that often rewards hiding. You rebel against fear by stepping into light. Each deliberate stride toward the open expanse teaches you that true courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to face it with open arms. The philosophical principle rises like dawn. Bravery flourishes when you claim your space in the light. Just as a solitary lantern defies the surrounding darkness, your willingness to be seen flaws and all shatters the illusion that shadows hold ultimate power. By refusing to shrink into safety, you expand your own horizon, creating room for authenticity, connection, and growth. You recall a Zen parable: a monk, wary of his own shortcomings, once whispered to his teacher that he preferred the seclusion of the dark cave where no one could witness his mistakes. The teacher led him to a mountain ledge at sunrise and said, "This light sees nothing but truth, and it transforms every hidden flaw into a path of learnings." As rays crested the peaks, the monk understood that exposure to light did not expose his weaknesses to judgment, but illuminated them as opportunities for growth. You inhale the crisp air scented with jasmine and pine, and exhale a breath of determination. A soft smile curls your lips as you murmur to yourself, "No more hiding behind my own curtain," lightly mocking the self-imposed barrier you've maintained. This gentle humor reminds you that rebellion, like rocketing into the sun, can be bold yet playful. A real-life anecdote surfaces. A colleague you admire spent years crafting intricate code from the shadows of her home office. Fearful that her ideas were unworthy of public view, one day she dared to present a small section of her open-source project at a casual lunch and learn. To her surprise, colleagues praised her work, offering enhancements she'd never imagined. That act of stepping into brightness transformed her behind-the-scenes passion into a celebrated collaboration. She laughed afterward, saying, "Turns out my code wasn't scared of the light I was." As you crest the rise, you pause to survey the valley below. Moonlit meadows shimmer like silver ribbons, and distant lanterns glow along winding paths. You feel the hum of life unfolding in every illuminated patch homes with windows aglow. Lantern festivals where laughter drifts on warm air. The steady pulse of human stories mirrored back in the night. This panorama reveals another insight when you step into the light. You not only reveal yourself, you become part of a larger constellation of shared courage and creativity. Your next footfall carries you onto a flat stone platform at the summit. You stand tall, shoulders back, and feel the cool rock steady your feet. In this open stance, you embody the rebellion of visibility, no longer hiding in the foothills of fear, but standing fully in the glow. You might whisper, "Take that, anxiety," playfully challenging the trembling voice that once urged retreat. An open reflection question surfaces. Where in your life have you shied away from opportunities because you feared exposure? Perhaps you've withheld your voice in meetings, avoided sharing personal stories, or kept your creative work locked behind closed doors. You might answer, "I haven't sung in public, I've avoided posting my writing, or I've deferred asking for help." Let this question echo in your chest like a rallying cry. What small step into the light could dismantle a mountain of doubt? Continuing, you leave the summit's edge and follow a narrow path illuminated by brazier torches. Their flames flicker golden against the night's deep blue, casting elongated shadows that dance across the stone walls lining the trail. Each torch marks a point of courage and invitation for you to press onward. As you pass, you reflect on the way light here doesn't obliterate the darkness, but transforms it into a stage for your newfound confidence to perform. You recall a second Zen parable. A village elder lit torches along the winding road to welcome travelers home. Each flame was a silent message: you are seen, you are safe. When asked why he placed so many lamps for a road seldom walked at night, he replied, "Even one traveler's courage can guide others." Each lamp is both beacon and testament. In that wisdom, you discern that your act of stepping into light not only guides your own path, but illuminates the way for others. A soft chuckle escapes you as you imagine anonymous travelers feeling emboldened by your torch-lined trail. Look, it's a rebellion march of one. You muse, delighted by the absurdity of staging your bravery as a solo parade. The humor warms your spirit, weaving lightheartedness into your inner resolve. You reach the base of a stone staircase carved into the hillside. Ropes of ivy drape over the handrails, a reminder that life's climb often intertwines with growth, that you place one hand lightly on the ivy, feeling its soft tendrils under your palm, and then with steady breath, you begin your ascent, each step up the stairs a defiance of gravity and a choice to elevate your own presence. And as you climb, you notice how the torchlight above casts Illusion's angels in the masonry carvings, mythical creatures in the ivy's weave. You pause to trace one carving that resembles a lion's face. You smile and murmur, "Even these walls celebrate my courage, seeing your rebellion mirrored in ancient stone." This playful recognition reminds you that history itself applauds those who dare to stand in the light. A real-life anecdote drifts forward a friend of yours, terrified of public speaking, committed to delivering one brief toast at a family gathering. She wrote her words, practiced in front of the mirror, and told herself that even if her voice shook, her message would matter. When the moment came, she spoke clearly, her words illuminated by the attentive eyes of loved ones. That small act unlocked her confidence, leading her to volunteer as guest speaker at charity events. She later said, "One toast became my microphone to the world. Her rebellion against fear began with a simple step onto a well-lit stage. Reaching the top of the stairs, you find a broad terrace overlooking both the valley and the sacred grove you left behind. Lanterns mark the terrace's edge, their flames dancing like friendly sentries. You step into their circle, letting the torchlight envelop you in a warm embrace. You sense your rebellion fulfilled not as a loud uproar, but a soft, steady glow that refuses to flicker. A final philosophical insight emerges. Bravery isn't measured by volume, but by luminosity. A single steadfast light outshines 1,000 flickering shadows. Your courage shines brightest when you remain constant, even amidst doubt's gusts. You feel the warmth of that realization settle in your bones, anchoring you in the certainty that your presence matters. You bow your head in gratitude to the valley below, the grove behind, and the torches around you, acknowledging the journey from darkness into light. Then you inhale deeply and exhale a sigh of contentment, opening your eyes to the panorama of glowing lanterns and moonlit paths. You ask one final reflection question for this section. How will you carry this gentle rebellion, this choice to stand visible into the coming days, illuminating not just your path, but those who follow with steady heart and radiant resolve? You step away from the torches, returning to the trail that leads you onward, your light undimmed. You descend from the torchlit terrace onto a sloping path lined with lanterns that lead back toward the shrine gate. Each step feels imbued with the lessons you've gathered, the dance of shadows, the spark of inner flame, the courage of visibility. As you make your way downward, you notice how your footsteps echo faintly against the stone, a soft affirmation of presence that follows you into every corner of the night. Here, at the end of your journey, you prepare to carry this light into tomorrow's dawn. The shrine gate stands ahead, its wooden beams bathed in pale moonlight. You pause beneath its arch, hands resting lightly on its post, and you feel the threshold between night and day humming with possibility. In this final act, you embody your greatest insight. Transformation unfolds one deliberate choice at a time, one footstep, one flame, one moment of courage and compassion. A philosophical principle emerges in quiet grandeur. True change is woven from many small acts rather than grand gestures. Just as each lantern you passed multiplied the darkness's retreat, each mindful step and gentle rebellion compounds into profound shifts in how you live and relate. Your journey reminds you that you need not uproot mountains in a single stride. Instead, you honor the power of consistency, tending your own light moment by moment. You inhale the cool night air tinged with cedar and blossom, and exhale slowly, letting gratitude wash through you. A soft smile rises as you murmur. Every flame, no matter how small, ignites the path ahead. This gentle humor seals your lesson with warmth. A real-life anecdote drifts into your awareness. A mentor you respected shared how she transformed her community by writing one kind note each day to a neighbor or colleague. She placed them anonymously, and over months, neighbors formed a support network that blossomed into shared meals and mutual aid. She reflected later, "One note at a time, we built a village of compassion." Her story affirms your own path. Each small gesture of light coalesces into a radiant tapestry of collective care. You step forward through the shrine gate, its silhouette framing the valley's distant glow. Beyond, fireflies flicker among reeds, tiny lanterns in their own right. You walk into the open air, letting the night breeze carry away leftover doubts. With each inhale, you draw in possibility. With each exhale, you release the last shadows of hesitation. A final Zen parable emerges. A traveler, weary from a long night's trek, found a single candle burning in an abandoned shrine. He knelt, sheltered it from wind, and in the candle's glow saw his own reflection, tired but determined. The next morning, he discovered fresh footprints around the shrine, as if others had knelt there before him in the candle's promise. He realized then that each pilgrim's vigil becomes part of a lineage, a shared flame passing from one soul to the next. This parable softens in your chest, and you whisper, "May my flame join that long line." With that vow, you step beyond the gate, heart alight, mind clear, and spirit buoyed by quiet revolution. You drift now on the exhale of night's last lessons, each breath a gentle wave rhythmically washing your shores. Let your pace slow to the cadence of distant lantern flickers, toes tracing the path you've walked in mind's eye. Recall the lantern's soft glow, the fox's silent tread, and the candle's steadfast flame, each a beacon lighting your inner night. Feel how your heart warms with simple truths that shadows teach by defining light, that courage grows in steady steps, and that your own glow kindles in moments of stillness and shared kindness. These insights rest in you like embers, waiting to spark the hearth of tomorrow's dawn. Allow gratitude to flow through your veins, gratitude for the silent guides of darkness, for the playful shapes dancing in moonlight, and for the community of lights weaving their glow into the world. Recognize that you, too, are a keeper of this flame, ready to pass it on through small acts of presence, compassion, and joy. As you sink into rest, imagine each insight as a lantern gently lowered into a still pond, creating ripples of light that expand outward with every peaceful exhale. Let your mind float in the gentle glow of these ripples, carried toward the horizon of dreams. You are enough. You are light. Good night.